Here's something I genuinely wish someone had told me earlier in my career, and something I now consider one of the most important conversations I have with every patient over 60 who walks into my office. The majority of people taking supplements every single day are not getting anywhere near the benefit they think they are getting. And the reason is not that supplements do not work. The reason is a collection of very specific and very fixable mistakes that most people have absolutely no idea they are making. Today, I am going to walk you through every single one of them, because once you understand these, you will never look at your supplement cabinet the same way again, and the money you spend on your health will finally start doing what you actually intend it to do. I am Dr. Michael Chen, and you are watching Healthy Aging Insights, the channel dedicated to giving men and women over 60 the kind of honest and genuinely practical health information that makes a real difference in your daily life. Today, we're going deep into the world of supplements. And I want to start by asking you something right now in the comments. How many supplements are you currently taking every day? Drop your number below, because I want to know, and your answer will genuinely shape what I cover next on this channel. Now let me start with the single most widespread and most consequential mistake I see, and it relates to something printed right on the back of almost every supplement bottle you own. When you look at a supplement label, you will see a column of numbers describing how much of each nutrient is in the product, and next to those numbers you will typically see a percentage reference pointing to something called the Recommended Daily Allowance, or RDA. Most people assume this number represents how much of a nutrient their body needs to be healthy and well supported. But that assumption is genuinely incorrect, and understanding why it is incorrect changes everything about how you approach supplementation. The RDA was never designed to represent optimal or therapeutic intake. It was designed decades ago to establish the absolute bare minimum amount of a nutrient needed to prevent a severe and obvious deficiency disease in a generally healthy population. It is a survival threshold, not a wellness target. It is the nutritional equivalent of saying the minimum amount of food you need to avoid starving is one slice of bread per day. Technically true, but nowhere near what your body needs to actually function well and feel good. For people over 60 who are taking supplements specifically to address an existing shortfall, support their energy, protect their immune system, or manage a specific health concern, the RDA is in most cases simply not enough to move the needle in any meaningful way. Let me go through some of the most commonly taken nutrients and explain what the research and clinical experience actually suggest about useful daily amounts, because the contrast with the official minimums is genuinely eye-opening. Vitamin D3 is perhaps the clearest example of this gap between official minimums and what people over 60 actually need. The official recommendation sits at a few hundred units per day, a number that was established primarily to prevent a childhood bone condition called rickets. For an adult over 60 seeking to support their immune system, their mood, their muscle function, their brain health, and their cardiovascular system, this amount is widely considered by many nutrition-focused clinicians to be dramatically insufficient. Many adults need significantly more than the official minimum simply to maintain blood levels in a range that supports these broader functions. And people with chronic inflammation, autoimmune tendencies, or other specific concerns may need considerably more still. A practical point of reference that often surprises people is that spending 30 minutes outdoors in summer sunlight on a clear day can generate an amount of vitamin D in the skin that far exceeds the official daily recommendation. If a natural process routinely produces that amount, it gives you some perspective on how conservative the official minimum truly is. Vitamin B12 is another critical one for this age group, and the gap between the official minimum and what many older adults genuinely need is substantial. The official RDA for B12 is a tiny amount that was established to prevent severe deficiency in a young, healthy adult with a fully functioning digestive system. The challenge for people over 60 is that the ability of the stomach to produce the substance needed to absorb B12 from food naturally declines significantly with age. And this means that even people eating B12-rich foods regularly may be absorbing far less than they realize. Many clinicians working with older adults recommend amounts many times higher than the official minimum, and the form of B12 matters enormously here. The synthetic form, commonly found in inexpensive supplements called cyanocobalamin, requires your body to convert it into an active, usable form, a conversion that becomes less efficient with age and is compromised further in people with certain common genetic variations. The form I would encourage you to look for is called methylcobalamin, which is the biologically active form your body can use directly without that conversion step. This small difference in form can make a significant difference in how much benefit you actually receive. Magnesium is perhaps the nutrient where the gap between official minimums and genuine therapeutic need is most dramatic, and it is the one I consider most critical for adults over 60 to get right. The official recommendations for magnesium were calculated based on body weights that are significantly lower than what most adults actually weigh today. When you adjust simply for average body weight, the number becomes considerably higher than what is officially listed. And for people trying to address specific concerns like sleep quality, muscle tension, blood pressure, blood sugar regulation, or anxiety, the amounts needed to create a meaningful therapeutic effect can be considerably higher still. But here's the equally important issue with magnesium that goes beyond just the amount. The form of magnesium you are taking makes an enormous difference to how much of it your body actually absorbs and uses. Magnesium oxide, which is the form found in many of the cheapest and most widely sold magnesium supplements, has an absorption rate that some research suggests is extremely low, in the range of just a few percent. What this means practically is that the amount listed on the label is not remotely close to the amount your body is actually receiving. The form I consistently recommend to patients is magnesium glycinate, which combines magnesium with the amino acid glycine and is absorbed considerably more efficiently. Taking magnesium glycinate in the evening has the additional benefit of supporting the production of a calming neurotransmitter that helps the nervous system wind down, which is why so many people who take it before bed report noticeably improved sleep quality and reduced nighttime muscle cramps. Zinc is another nutrient where the official minimum is considerably lower than what many adults over 60 need for meaningful immune support, healthy testosterone levels, proper wound healing, and even the ability to taste and smell food properly. The official RDA is in the range of 8 to 11 milligrams, while many clinicians working with older adults find that amounts 2 to 4 times that range are needed to produce noticeable functional benefits. But here's the critical cofactor relationship that most people taking zinc never consider. Zinc and copper work together in your body, and they compete for absorption. Taking supplemental zinc consistently without ensuring adequate copper intake can over time deplete your copper levels, which creates its own set of problems. This brings me to what I consider the second most important point in this entire video, and one that almost nobody discusses clearly. Stay right here, because what I'm about to explain in the next few minutes is the piece that makes the difference between supplements that genuinely work and supplements you take every day for years without ever truly feeling their effect. Vitamins and minerals in your body almost never work in isolation. They work in carefully balanced partnerships where each nutrient depends on the presence of others to do its job properly. These supporting nutrients are called cofactors, and ignoring them is one of the primary reasons people take expensive supplements for months or even years and feel very little benefit. Let me give you the most important examples, because these affect the majority of people taking supplements today. Vitamin D3, which so many people over 60 are taking, and which is genuinely important, cannot do its job fully without magnesium. Vitamin D3 requires magnesium to be converted into its active form in the body. If your magnesium levels are low, and a significant proportion of older adults are low in magnesium, your vitamin D3 may be sitting in your system largely inactive, no matter how much of it you take or how consistently you take it. Vitamin D3 also works in partnership with vitamin K2, and this partnership is particularly important and particularly underappreciated. When vitamin D3 increases the amount of calcium being absorbed into your bloodstream, vitamin K2 is what directs that calcium to go where it belongs, into your bones and teeth, rather than depositing in your arterial walls and soft tissues where it can cause harm. Taking significant amounts of vitamin D3 without vitamin K2 is therefore something worth discussing carefully with your doctor. The form of K2 I would encourage you to look for on labels is called MK7, which remains active in the body for a considerably longer period than the more common MK4 form. B12 and folate work in such close partnership that a deficiency in one can actually mimic a deficiency in the other, creating confusion and missed diagnoses. If you are taking B12 without adequate folate, you may not be getting the full benefit of either. And just as there is a preferred form of B12, there is also a preferred form of folate, the synthetic version called folic acid, which is what most multivitamins and fortified foods contain, requires your body to convert it through a biochemical pathway that a meaningful percentage of people, particularly those with a common genetic variation, cannot complete efficiently. The form I would suggest looking for is called methylfolate, the pre-converted active form that your body can use directly regardless of your genetic makeup. Vitamin B1, which is crucial for energy production in every cell of your body and particularly important for nervous system health, requires magnesium to function properly. And here is a fact about B1 that most people do not know. Every time you eat refined carbohydrates, processed foods, or sugar, your body burns through B1 at an accelerated rate to process those foods. If your diet still includes a significant amount of bread, pasta, crackers, cereals, or sweet foods, your B1 needs are being consistently elevated while your intake likely remains unchanged. This is one of the reasons fatigue, brain fog, and nervous tension are so common in people whose diet contains a lot of processed carbohydrates. The official RDA for B1 is a tiny amount measured in just over a milligram. Many clinicians working with older adults find that amounts 10 to 50 times that range or more are needed for meaningful therapeutic effects, particularly for people dealing with nerve-related symptoms. Let me tell you about a patient I will call Patricia. She is 64 years old and came to see me genuinely frustrated after spending a considerable amount of money on supplements for over 2 years without feeling any meaningful improvement in her energy, her sleep, or the persistent tingling sensation she experienced in her feet. She was taking vitamin D3, a B complex, zinc, and calcium daily, and had been told by various sources that these were exactly what she needed. When we sat down and went through everything carefully together, several things became clear very quickly. Her vitamin D3 was a low-potency product taken without K2 or magnesium, meaning her body was likely not activating or directing it properly. Her B complex contained the synthetic cyanocobalamin form of B12 and folic acid rather than methylcobalamin and methylfolate, making it poorly suited for her particular needs. Her zinc contained no copper cofactor, and her calcium supplement, which contained calcium carbonate, a form derived from limestone that is poorly absorbed and potentially problematic in excess, was being taken without K2 to direct it safely. Within 3 months of making targeted changes to the forms, amounts, and combinations of what she was taking, Patricia reported that her energy had noticeably improved. The tingling in her feet had reduced significantly, and she was sleeping more soundly than she had in years. Nothing fundamentally dramatic had changed in her diet or lifestyle. What changed was that her supplements were finally actually working. If this is making sense, and you are recognizing some of these mistakes in your own supplement routine, please hit the like button on this video right now. It genuinely helps this information reach more people who need it, and it takes just 1 second of your time. Now let me talk about timing, because this is the third major area where people consistently undermine the benefit of what they are taking, and it is one of the simplest things to fix once you understand it. Different nutrients need to be taken at different times of day, and with or without food to be absorbed and used properly. Taking everything together in one go in the morning because it is convenient may actually be working against you. B vitamins, including your B complex, B1, and B12, are best taken in the morning because they support energy production and cellular metabolism. Taking them late in the day or close to bedtime can sometimes interfere with sleep in people who are sensitive to their stimulating metabolic effect. Vitamin D3, vitamin K2, omega-3 fatty acids, and coenzyme Q10 are all fat-soluble nutrients, meaning they require the presence of dietary fat to be properly absorbed into your body. Taking these with a dry piece of toast or on an empty stomach means your absorption may be a small fraction of what it could be. The ideal time for these is with your largest meal of the day, typically lunch or dinner, when you're most likely to be eating foods that contain some natural fat. Magnesium glycinate is one supplement that genuinely works in your favor when taken in the evening. As I mentioned earlier, it supports the calming neurotransmitter GABA and helps lower cortisol in the evening hours, supporting a more natural and restful transition into sleep. Iodine, which plays a role in thyroid function and in regulating certain hormones, is generally better suited to morning intake because of its potential stimulating effect on metabolism and thyroid activity. Now let me address the synthetic versus natural distinction, because this is one that genuinely matters and is rarely explained clearly to consumers. Not all nutrients in supplement form are created equal, and the difference between a synthetic isolated chemical version of a vitamin and a naturally sourced or whole food complex version can be significant in terms of how your body recognizes, absorbs, and uses it. In nature, vitamins never appear alone. They always arrive with a constellation of companion compounds, enzymes, and cofactors that help your body recognize and process them. When a vitamin is synthesized chemically in a laboratory and taken in isolation, your body may absorb and use it differently than the naturally occurring version, embedded in its full biological context. This matters more for some nutrients than others, but it is worth being aware of when you are choosing products. When possible, look for supplements that use whole food-sourced ingredients or that are described as food-based rather than purely synthetic chemical compounds. One practical test you can do at home for any powdered supplement or any capsule you can open is to mix a small amount in water and add a drop of iodine solution. If the mixture turns dark purple or blue, it indicates the presence of starch, often in the form of a cheap filler called maltodextrin, which is worse for blood sugar than table sugar and has no business being in a health supplement. If it stays yellow or amber, the product is likely starch-free. There are also some specific forms of nutrients I want to flag as ones to actively look for or avoid, because the difference is genuinely significant. For omega-3 fatty acids, the difference between a high-quality, properly processed fish oil or cod liver oil and a cheap oxidized product that has been sitting on a warehouse shelf is substantial. Oxidized fish oil not only provides none of the anti-inflammatory benefits of fresh omega-3, but may actually contribute to oxidative stress. The smell test is your friend here. Fresh quality fish oil should have a mild, clean ocean scent. Rancid oil smells harsh and unpleasant. For coenzyme Q10, which is critically important for energy production in every cell and particularly in the heart muscle, and which is significantly depleted by statin cholesterol medications, the form called ubiquinol is more readily absorbed than the more common and less expensive ubiquinone form, particularly in people over 60 whose bodies may be less efficient at converting between the two. Pro tip that very few people are aware of. If you are currently taking a statin medication for cholesterol, the biochemical pathway that statins block to reduce cholesterol production is the same pathway your body uses to produce coenzyme Q10 naturally. This means statin users are at a particularly elevated risk of coenzyme Q10 depletion, which can manifest as muscle aches, fatigue, and reduced exercise tolerance. If you are on a statin and experience any of these symptoms, a conversation with your doctor about coenzyme Q10 is one of the most worthwhile health discussions you can have. One more important warning I want to share before we move to your action plan. Calcium is one of the most oversupplemented nutrients in the adult population and one of the most potentially problematic when taken incorrectly. Many multivitamins and bone health formulas contain large amounts of calcium carbonate, which is essentially the same substance as chalk or limestone. This form is poorly absorbed, particularly by older adults whose stomach acid levels have declined, and calcium that is not properly directed by vitamin K2 can deposit in arterial walls and soft tissues rather than going to the bones where it belongs. Unless you have been specifically advised by your doctor to supplement calcium for a clinically diagnosed bone density concern, getting your calcium from food sources like dairy, fermented dairy, leafy greens, canned fish with bones, and almonds is generally the preferable approach. The calcium in whole foods comes with the natural cofactors that support its proper handling in your body. Here is your clear and practical action plan starting today. First, go through your current supplements and look at what forms the key nutrients are in. Switch your B12 to methylcobalamin if you are not already taking it. Switch your folate to methylfolate. Switch your magnesium to magnesium glycinate if you are taking another form. These 3 form changes alone may make a noticeable difference in what you experience. Second, if you are taking vitamin D3, make sure you are also taking vitamin K2 in the MK7 form alongside it, and make sure you are taking both with a meal that contains some fat. Third, rethink your timing. Move your B vitamins to morning, your fat-soluble nutrients to your largest meal of the day, and your magnesium glycinate to the evening. Fourth, if you are on a statin medication, discuss coenzyme Q10 with your doctor at your next appointment and ask whether it might be appropriate for you. Fifth, do the iodine starch test on any powdered supplements you are currently taking to check for maltodextrin fillers. And sixth, before adding anything new to your routine, consider whether you are addressing the cofactor partnerships. Are you taking zinc without copper? Are you taking vitamin D without magnesium and K2? These relationships matter as much as the nutrients themselves. Finally, and most importantly, I want to say something that genuinely matters. Supplements work best in a body that is being given the right foundations through food, movement, sleep, and stress management. No supplement can fully compensate for a diet built primarily on processed and refined foods, for consistently poor sleep, or for unmanaged chronic stress. The supplement is the support layer. The lifestyle is the foundation. Get both right together, and the results you experience will be in a completely different category than what most people settle for. Remember, this video is for informational and educational purposes only. Always consult with your personal doctor before making any changes to your health. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Healthy Aging Insights and hit the notification bell so you never miss a health tip. See you in the next video.